Razaban for FightHype.com. With me, renowned trainer from the Ingle gym, or that is his surname, Dominic Ingle. Dom, how you doing?
How you doing? I'm good, mate. You're looking after Manuel last time I saw you.
Well, it's funny though, because I go back to an interview I did with you last year when Kid fought on Chris Eubank's first show on
February,
ITV.
February,
Was that this year?
Yeah, February, yeah.
That was Brendan Quillen this year, the fight.
Well, when did he fight Quinlan? February.
Was it February?
Yeah. That's how quick it's gone.
Wow. And I spoke to him and I said to you, Dom, what can you do with me? And I said as a joke in the interview. I said as a complete joke. And then, what, 4 or 5 months later, I dropped your tapes.
Nearly 6 months, 7 months, and look at the shape of you now. You look 10 years younger. You must be fighting the women off with a stick.
Nah, I'm staying away from the women right now. I'm just concentrating on getting like yourself.
Well, I'll tell you what, to say you've never done any training in your life and you've just done the diet, you're in good shape. You've got some muscle under that, under all that fat. All it's a case of now is doing some exercise and building yourself back up again.
Yeah, you sent the ab exercises to Greg, so I've been on it. I've been on it really.
Every other day.
Dom, your first fight with Billy Joe Saunders, it wasn't a surprise to me because I knew before everybody else, but it was a surprise to a lot of people that Billy joined yourself. How did that move come along?
Why was it a surprise? Did anybody ever tell you why it was a surprise?
No, obviously he was with his first trainer. He then moved on to Adam Booth, and to make such rapid changes so quickly.
Don't you think going from Jimmy Tibbs to Adam Booth was a radical move or not?
But sometimes fighters need that one change, and they have that change, but you don't expect them to make another change so soon. Yeah. From that perspective, I think people were a bit surprised that he left Adam Booth, and then he obviously moved on. But how did that move kind of come along?
Well, I think Billy's a smart guy, in life, he's a smart guy. He can talk, he can weigh things up, he's got plenty of chat, he can ad-lib. He's got plenty to say for himself. I think he's a smart businessman. Listening to him how he does his deals and the stuff he's doing outside of boxing, he's quite clued up. I think as soon as he realises things aren't going the way he wants to go, he makes a change. And I think, when you've been with a trainer as long as you have, Jimmy Tibbs is a proper old school trainer. His lad Mark, was a fighter, good trainer as well. The proper old school, there's not many left. There's Brendan, there's Jimmy, there's a few other old trainers around with the old school values. But I think it got to the point with Billy, for whatever reason, he never really went into it. He parted ways with Jimmy, and I don't think, it might take 2 or 3 moves because he's not daft, is it? It's like I've seen of late Cole Frampton's gone from Shane McGuigan to Jamie Moore, and he's doing what he's doing. Maybe he's had a look around for the trainers, I don't know, but the thing is, you've got to make the personal connection as well. You've got to be able to have respect for the person who's training you. And he always said to me, but he goes, Adam was a good trainer, he's technical in what he did. He goes, but realistically, he says, I needed to be away from that area, I needed to be away from being a half an hour drive away from my friends, and he's at least 2-3 hours away in Sheffield, and he's been there before. He's familiar with the area, and he's been in a gym full of kids who he knows and he gets on with. So it's a good move. But like I say, he's a switched on guy. He knows about boxing, and everybody's gelled in easily. He's like somebody who's dropped him in there. He was always meant to be there. We took guys down to the years ago when Billy was training on the Olympic squad. We had kids sparring with him. He fought one of my guys, Lee Noble, and I always remember Billy saying, he goes, you look at his record, you think that's going to be an easy fight. He goes, but he was a tricky fighter, and he goes, he'll upset anybody who's not ready for him. And he did. He boxed a guy, Lee Noble boxed a guy called John Dignam, and he's unbeaten, and he beat that guy. The guy thought it was going to be an easy fight. So Billy's, he's clued up, but it's all gone well in the camp. He listens, he pays attention. He's not disrespectful. If you tell him to do something, he does it straight away. He doesn't say, well, I think this and I think that. He just does it, and he sees at the end of it all works out.
Do you think the issue with Billy was not that he wasn't dedicated, but just the distractions around him?
The thing is, you've got to get things in a certain order when you're training. And over the years, we're probably known for dealing with difficult people or kids who are, blow up in between fights. Kell Brooks had a lot of bad luck of late. He's been out a lot of times with injury. He got stabbed. He's had 2 broken eye sockets. And when you naturally have time out of the ring, out of the gym, you put weight on. You lose a little bit of interest. And when you come back into the gym, you don't even look like a fighter. Billy, I'm going to say. Don't hit that. Sidey, don't let him hit it hard. Tell him not to hit it hard. That's the last thing you want him to do. Go and hit that ball and break his hand. Where were we?
Talking about how people blow up in weight.
Yeah, they blow up in weight, and you know, I've spoke to a lot of fighters, a lot of trainers, and they don't deal with weight loss. That's the fighter's concern, which is because, you know, for at least 20 hours of the day, that fighter's on himself. He's not in the gym for 20 hours. They come to the gym for 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. You know, that's what you get paid for doing. You don't get paid to babysit. And it is down to the fighter to be responsible for what they put in their mouth. And certain trainers I've talked to don't allow fighters into the gym unless there's something like within 10 pounds of the fighting weight. Because, you know, they're getting paid to do a job of training somebody, they're not there to do the diet and nutrition. So I've come to accept over the years that, you know, it's one of them things, if you take on a job, you take on the full package. It's not, well, I don't want to do that. You know, the weight situation, as you know, that's the hardest thing. When somebody starts restricting your food, you know, the things you like to do, whether you drink or you smoke, and they tell you can't do that, some people think life's not worth living. So you've got to realise that it's all part and part of the job, part and parcel of the job. You know, nutrition, the resting side of it. It's not just all about training. Once the fighter leaves the gym, your job's not finished. It's not done. And if you take that approach that your job is finished, they're going to come in the next day, they might be 3 or 4 pounds over the weight they left the gym the night before. So you've got to be on them 24/7. You know, Billy lives across from me. I can see when he's leaving the house. I can look through my window and see what he's up to. I can see where his car is. I know his every move. I weigh him 3 or 4 times a day. I know what his weight should be. If he's been eating stuff he shouldn't have been eating. So, and if he does, I don't tell him. I just make him train a little bit harder. You know, give him a bit of a hard session. He might say, that was an hard session. I'll say, yeah, well, somebody's told me you've been walking around middleweight eating an apple. Oh, I just said it was just a snack. I said, but he went on the diet. So he knows that if he does steps out of line, it's going to come back a slightly different way. So it was about getting his nutrition in order with his training. And you know, there was sometimes he was putting in hard sessions and then starving himself straight afterwards. You've got, no matter what a fighter's weight is, you've got to feed him. He's been on 4 meals a day for the last 12 weeks. He's still eating. Now he's weighing in tomorrow. He's had his breakfast, he's going to have his lunch. You know, he's going to wake up tomorrow, he's going to be underweight, he's drinking 7 or 8 litres of water a day. He looks good, he looks fresh, he looks healthy. But it's a long process. And he's got Greg Marriott, who did your day, he's got me, he's got about 3 or 4 people. He's got, you know, he's got a girl who does his massage, Sophie, from Peak Physique. She does his massage. So you've got like a 4 or 5 man team around him, keeping him on track, keeping him ready to train, you know, making sure that when he gets into that gym he can do the workout. Afterwards, when he's tired, give him a rub down, feed him, you know, give him the water, make him rest, stop him running around. And all that makes a difference. The recovery process for training is very, very important. And fighters think once they've done the job in the gym, that's that done. That box is ticked, I'm off. I'm going to go and see my mates, I'm going to do this. No, you've got to actually rest and recover, because otherwise you're not going to adapt to the training that you're doing. You're going to come in the next day and not be able to carry out the task. So you might get away with it early on in camp, but then when the demands become greater, the running becomes harder, you know, what's asked of you becomes harder, you're going to have to turn around and say, I can't do that. And I'm going to say, well, why can't you do it? You should be able to do it. Well, you haven't been rested enough. But he's never got to that point with Billy. I've told him, you need to rest now after this for at least an hour. Don't do anything. Try and get a bit of sleep for an hour. And then you're ready for the afternoon. And then you've got to know when to stop him. In, you know, maybe you're going to give him 1 session that day. Maybe you're going to stop him from training that day. It's not about training and training and training and training. You can't, at his age is 28, you can't do 2 killer sessions a day. You can maybe do 1. And as the fight comes closer and the calories start to drop a little bit, then maybe you have to miss days training, because recovery is so important. And that's where you hear the term, he's left it all in the gym. And a lot of fighters do that. They train up to the point, you know, to the Wednesday and the Thursday before the fight. I remember watching Howard Eastman, when he boxed Bernard Hopkins in America, do 12 rounds on the pads the morning of the weigh-in with 16-ounce gloves on. And when he got in the ring against Bernard Hopkins, he just went one pace through. He could have won that fight, but he was one pace all the way through. He couldn't step up the gears. So you learn from watching other people, you learn from the mistakes you make yourself. But I believe that Billy's in the best shape he can be in the time frame that we've had.
I might have to join him in future Ventura in not near future.
I don't know if you'd be able to live that lifestyle, because you'd have Kid Galahad on your case, winding you up and tormenting the life out of you. And you know, it's a difficult place to be if you're not thick-skinned, and you know, with all the weight that you've lost, your skin's very thin at the minute.
Willie Monroe Jr. didn't want to say much today. Was a little bit quiet, but eventually say quite a lot more in his speech today. What do you see in him as a fighter, one? And two, you said this was going to be possibly a late stoppage or a wide decision.
He was a bit disconnected today. I think his method is that he doesn't want to hear the stuff that Billy's saying, but to be honest, you know, if he wasn't that bothered about it, then he should have been able to look at Billy and just laugh at him. And you know, you can listen to stuff and not go in your head, but I think it does get to him. I don't think he wants to hear it off of Billy. I don't think he wants to get wound up. He looks a bit tight at the weight to me. You know, they've travelled over here. They've been over here since last Friday. He'll be getting a little bit of jet lag. He'll be a bit upside down at the minute. I think it'll all come right on fight night for him. But you know, I think this is the first time in his professional career he's boxed outside of America. So it's going to be a bit of a new territory to him. He's going to feel it on the night when he gets in the ring because of the time difference. But you know, he's eventually when Billy started pressing his buttons, you know, he started to respond. You know, he didn't want to do that at first, but then he got drawn in, and you know, he's what he is, and he's a good fighter. He's very cautious. He likes to counter. He likes to wait. He likes to fight at his own pace. He's got technique to keep people off. But the thing is, you know, he reminds me of the fighters what come out of our gym. The way he fights, he's got a very loose style. He's very tricky. But Billy's spotted a guy called Abraham Horner. He's about 5-6 pro fights. He spotted this guy Abraham Horner. We killed Brook for his world title fights. You know, Kills boxed a lot of southpaws. And he's been the main sparring partner, so he's even though he's had 6 professional fights, he's a very awkward, fit guy who can box for 12 rounds. He can cause you problems. His style's very unpredictable, and to be honest, the style that Willie Monroe brings won't cause Billy any problems. He'll have seen it all, you know, the hands spinning and the slickness, and you know, slipping and moving off his shots. And you know, Billy knows what he's got to do. Billy likes to wait and counter as well, and whatever, but you know, Billy's got a very good boxing brain, and like I said, you know, to previous people, that when another fighter knows what your quick point is, that gives that fighter so much confidence. It's like when you go out for a run with people, and you let them catch up with you a little bit, then you push on, and you break them down that way. Billy does the same. He's not going to go out there crash bang wallop. He's going to break him down very, very steadily. You know, any problems that Willie, you know, tries to pose, you know, Billy should be able to handle, deal with it. And once Willie starts running out of his bag of tricks, you know, that's when he'll start to crumble, I think. But I'm thinking maybe late stoppage, or wide points for Billy. It's going to be an hard fight, whichever way it is.